You don't fail because things are hard. You fail because every time something gets hard, you have to decide again. And in that moment, you lose. Not because you're weak, because you're human. Your brain is wired to avoid resistance, to conserve energy, to choose comfort. So when discipline depends on decision, comfort usually wins. That you wake up and decide to work it anyway. Should I work? Should I go to the gym? And every decision drains you. Not physically, mentally. That's why you start strong and fade, because willpower isn't built to last all day. It leaks, quietly, until you don't even realize you've stopped trying. And then you tell yourself a story. I'll start tomorrow. But tomorrow is just another day, full of the same decisions, same friction, same resistance. Nothing changes, because you're still relying on choice. And choice is unstable. The people you think are disciplined, they're not stronger than you. They've just removed the need to decide. They made hard things automatic. And that's where everything changes. Because once something becomes automatic, it stops feeling like effort. It becomes identity. And identity doesn't negotiate. It executes. Most people never reach that level. They stay stuck in cycles. Motivation, action, drop, repeat. Because they treat discipline like an emotion, something they need to feel. But the truth is, discipline is architecture. It's how your life is structured, not how you feel about it. So, if your structure is weak, your behavior will be inconsistent, no matter how motivated you are. Let's break that illusion. You don't need more motivation. You need fewer choices. Because every time you decide, you open the door to failure. So the first shift is simple. Fix your start point, not your entire day, just the beginning. Because the first action you take each day sets the direction for everything that follows. And if that action requires thinking, you've already lost momentum. So remove the thinking. Same wake-up time, same first action, no variation. It feels restrictive. Good, because freedom without structure creates chaos, and chaos destroys consistency. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable. You think flexibility is good. You think adapting your routine makes you smarter. But most of the time, it makes you weaker. Because flexibility turns into excuses. I'll do it later. I'll adjust today. I'll make up for it tomorrow. You won't. Because once you break the pattern, you reset the habit loop. And starting again is always harder than continuing. So the second shift, reduce variability. Make your habits boring, predictable, repeatable. Because boredom is what builds mastery, not excitement. The elite don't chase novelty. They protect consistency. Now, listen closely, because this is where most people self-sabotage. They make things harder than they need to be. Too many goals, too many habits, too many changes at once. And then they wonder why nothing sticks. It's not complexity that builds discipline. It's simplicity. So the third shift, lower the entry barrier. Not the standard, the entry. If your habit feels heavy to start, you won't start. So make it smaller, easier, faster to begin. Because starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, momentum carries you. But if you never start, nothing happens. And that's where most people stay, stuck at zero. Now here's something most people ignore. Environment. You think discipline comes from inside. It doesn't. It's heavily influenced by what's around you. Your phone, your room, your distractions. They're all triggers. And if your environment makes bad habits easy, you will fail. Eventually. Not because you lack discipline. Because your environment is stronger than your intention. So, the fourth shift, design your environment for success. Remove friction from good habits. Add friction to bad ones. Make the right choice easier than the wrong one. Because when the environment supports you, you don't need to fight yourself. And that's how automation begins. Not through effort, through design. Now here's where identity takes over. Most people act based on goals. I want to get fit. I want to be productive. I want to improve. But goals are temporary. They end. Identity doesn't. So the fifth shift, stop focusing on outcomes. Focus on who you're becoming. Not I need to work out. I'm someone who doesn't skip workouts. Not I should be consistent. I don't break promises to myself. That shift is subtle, but powerful. Because once behavior is tied to identity, it stops being optional. And that's when habits lock in. Now here's the reality most people avoid. You will not feel like doing it, not every day, not most days. And if your system depends on feeling ready, you will fail. So the sixth shift, remove emotion from execution. You don't ask, do I feel like it? You act. Because it's scheduled. Because it's part of your system. Because that's who you are. Emotion becomes relevant. And once emotion is removed, consistency becomes possible. Not easy, but inevitable. Now, the final shift. And this is what separates average from dangerous. Most people rely on streaks. They feel good when they're consistent. They feel bad when they break. And once they break, they spiral. One missed day becomes two. Two becomes a week. And suddenly, they're back at zero. So here's the truth. Perfection is not the goal. Recovery is. So the seventh shift, never miss twice. You can slip once, you cannot slip twice. Because the first miss is a mistake. The second is a pattern. And patterns are what define you. Protect the pattern, and you protect your identity. Break it repeatedly, and you become average again. Now, step back for a second. Look at how most people live. They rely on motivation. They make daily decisions. They change plans constantly. They chase intensity over consistency. And then they wonder why nothing sticks. It's not confusing. It's predictable. They're building a system that guarantees failure. But you're doing something different. You're removing choice. You're reducing friction. You're designing your life. So hard things stop feeling hard. Not because they changed, but because you did. And once that shift happens, discipline doesn't feel like effort anymore. It feels like default. That's when everything accelerates. Because now, you're not fighting yourself every day. You're moving with yourself. And that's rare. Most people never reach that level. They stay stuck, negotiating with their own mind, losing battles they don't even realize they're fighting. But you've seen the pattern. And once you see it, you can't go back. So the question is simple. Will you keep relying on motivation? Or will you build a system where hard things happen automatically? Because one path feels easier, but keeps you average. The other feels restrictive, but makes you unstoppable. Choose carefully. Because your future isn't built on what you want to do, it's built on what you do without thinking. If this changed your perspective, subscribe, because the next video might change your life.